This Social Security measure gives at least some protection.
For anybody to hand this out, we're asking for a chance to have the people who will receive the benefit to earn their way. The same principle established under the Social Security system in this nation.
It is no longer acceptable to discuss women's rights as separate from human rights.
I know we can come together to face down the challenges of our own time.
Welcome back to The Democrats, the show that introduces you to the Democratic candidates for the New Hampshire House of Representatives. I'm State Representative Cindy Rosenwald.
And I'm David Campbell from Ward 6. And today we're talking to Sylvia Gale.
Yep.
Sylvia, you're not in the legislature. You've never been in the legislature before. Now you're running for the New Hampshire House. What caused you as a citizen to decide to become an elected official?
In various jobs and volunteer activities, I've been in and around the State House for the last 5 years, more or less, both as an agency director at the Commission on the Status of Women and then as a lobbyist for the American Friends Service Committee, and more recently as a community organizer for the Labor Unity Table to actually be part of the sessions every day that they were held in the State House, to talk to legislators, to remind legislators of the needs that New Hampshire working families have and need of being supported by our lawmakers.
And what do you hear as you're walking around your ward? What do you hear from the constituents of Ward 1? What do they want you to do when they send you to Concord?
I think Ward 1 residents, and not so very different from other citizens around the state of New Hampshire, when they elect people to the State House, they expect their legislators to represent them well. That means returning phone calls. That means listening to their stated concerns on various pieces of legislation that are coming forward for a vote. And that means having I also believe the expectation is that they expect us as legislators and potential legislators to engage in collaborative working outcomes, to have collaborative discussions, and to work proactively to bring forward better government outcomes for all of our citizens across the state, whether they are able or disabled, whether they are on government assistance or in need of social services across the state. New Hampshire has had a fine and proud tradition of serving the needs of those that have less than ourselves, and to support the rights of people across the board, whether it be for women's access and choice to reproductive health care services, whether it be for services to developmentally disabled populations, whether it be the rights of gay, lesbian, transgendered population to freely and equally marry those they love. That proud tradition, I'm afraid, has been somewhat diminished over the past year and a half or 2 years.
So in your role as an advocate, you had the opportunity to sit in the gallery and watch the House conduct business. Do you have any feelings about how it went the last 2 years, and did that play into you wanting to run at all?
It absolutely has. It absolutely has. I mean, having been in and around the State House, but not on the House floor per se, I've seen the atmosphere of the State House change. To me, the State House is an amazing and a worthy of respect institution, one that takes your breath away, no matter how many times you've walked in that front door under that gold dome. And what I have experienced and what I have observed the past 2 years is that reverence has dissipated. There is much more of a feeling, if you will, of paranoia in the hallways, where people freely engaged in banter, chatter, and very meaningful policy compromising discussions, if you will. They now are hushed tones. Doors are closed. There's not laughter in the hallways anymore. People barely smile in the hallways. And when people are having discussions, it's almost like their tones are hushed and they're looking over their shoulder to see who might be overhearing them. It's very, very sad. It breaks my heart. And I think we can do better. I think New Hampshire can and must do better. And, my biggest thrust for wanting to be in this race to win it is to do my small part to restore sanity and civility and balance to the New Hampshire
That's so
State
well
House.
stated. because it is a citizen legislature.
Right.
It's 400 people. It's the only legislature like it in the country and the world, and it does have a proud tradition. And civility, decorum has been the New Hampshire way, whether we disagree on. Let's focus on one issue that's important to you, and of the many you've stated. But talk about women's issues, women's rights, what's happened in the past, and what really needs to happen going forward.
You know, I'm just amazed at this past 2 years that we are reverting to discussions that many of us fought for and thought were settled more than 20, 30 years ago. You know, the attacks on women's rights to basic reproductive health care services, and the attacks on Planned Parenthood and other serving agencies that don't just serve only women. You know, Planned Parenthood and our network of community health centers, of which I was a proud board member for many years in Nashua, on Nashua Family Planning, as it evolved to what is now the Lamprey Community Health Center. I know how important those services are. I know how important that prenatal services are.
Absolutely.
I know how important that providing basic health care to folks who are uninsured or underinsured, and that includes family planning, that includes reproductive health care services, that includes cancer screenings. So to have this attack on these very basic life-saving services from not only the New Hampshire legislature, but the U.S. Congress, to attack women's health care is unbelievable, and it has to be reversed, and we need to restore those services to low-income women, men, and their families, so that we can all be in the business of raising more healthy children when and if that's the right time for this family to choose. To deprive women and their families of these services is just not okay.
Well, I know that your involvement with the healthy and productive lives of women also extends to your involvement with domestic violence support. Tell us, you're on the board of the agency in Nashua, right? Bridges?
I'm currently proudly on the board of Bridges, which provides support.
It's a great agency.
Explain what it does to our viewers.
Well,
Yeah.
I will, but you know, I'll just go back a tiny step, if you will. More than 30 years ago, I was proudly a co-founding mother of what has become Bridges. And my biggest regret is that over the past 30 years, we have not done away with the need to provide protection, support, and healing services to victims and survivors of domestic and sexual violence of all ages and all genders.
And we have to remember that children are involved.
Absolutely.
As well. It's such an important agency. We've got to wrap up now, but good luck in your race
Thank
to
you.
be elected state rep in Ward 1. Thanks for putting your all 10 toes in the water, and we'll be seeing you in Concord. Stay with us.
I'm Representative Cindy Rosenwald.
And I'm David Campbell. We've been with Sylvia Gale from Ward 4, and we're the Democrats.
Ward 1.
Ward 1.
Thank
We're
you.
the
We finally got the word. We're still the Democrats.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.